this is Tomlin from TomlinHarmonicaLessons.com, and today I'm not going to teach you how to play anything. Instead, I am going to give you my top 5 harmonica practice tips. I'm not going to give them in any particular order of importance. I'm just going to get started with the first one, which is use a metronome. Okay, so the benefit of using a metronome is multiple. It helps you to learn a good sense of timing. I cannot tell you how many times I get emails from people saying, I'm not very good at timing naturally. I find it hard to stay in time. I have problems with rhythm. I can't count. These are all things that we can fix with a metronome. Maybe not being able to count, but at least being able to count from 1 to 4 for most of the blues music that we're going to be playing. So using a metronome helps you to learn that internal sense of timing. And while you're using that metronome, tap your foot or do something that's kind of moving in time with it, so that you're also internalizing a physical click. That's really, really helpful. So that's one advantage of using the metronome. The second advantage is you can use it to push the speed of your playing. So if you can play something at 60 BPM and you cannot play it at 80 BPM, what you do is you try playing it at 62 BPM. And you practice it at that speed, and then when you can comfortably play it at 62 BPM, you gradually increase the speed until you get to 80. Do it in 1 or 2 beat increments, okay? And don't rush it. The most important thing that you need to be able to do is maintain accuracy. So if at 60 BPM you don't make any mistakes, you can then increase your speed. If at 65 BPM you make a mistake every 2 or 3 repetitions, then you need to slow down and practice a little bit slower until you can do it at 63, and then go back up to 65 and just gradually push yourself up until you can do it at whatever your target speed is. Okay, tip number 2 is record yourself. Okay, so quite often we'll play something and we won't be sure whether we played it well or whether we played it badly. So this is where recording yourself is really, really helpful. So you can hear things that you wouldn't be able to discern when you're just practicing, because your attention is on the harmonica rather than on your ears. Okay? So one thing to think about, when you record yourself and you listen back to yourself, be constructive with how you criticize yourself. Don't say, that was crap. That's not going to help you get better. Instead say, your bend wasn't in tune. You were rushing ahead of the beat. Your single notes aren't clean enough. Try and make it a specific thing. And then finally, don't make a list of every single thing that's wrong with your recording. Pick 1 or 2 things and work on them, then record yourself again, okay? And a final thought about recording, you don't have to have a super fancy recording studio at home to do this. I just do it on my phone. I use the voice memo app, and then I listen back and I make notes, and that's great, okay? Right, practice tip number 3, close your eyes. Okay, so I'm sure you've been in a situation where you're practicing something and you feel like you're falling downstairs while you're playing. It's just impossible to get your coordination right. And in those situations, what I like to do is close my eyes. And what I feel that does is it takes all of the processing power that I was using to look around the room, and it keeps it in my harmonica playing and my ears and my muscle memory. And we use a lot of processing power to look at things. So closing your eyes really helps you to focus and work on those things that are giving you trouble with your coordination. So that was tip number 3, closing your eyes. The next tip, tip number 4, is one of the most powerful ones, and that is keep a diary. Dear diary, today I practiced some harmonica. It was great. Okay, so what do I actually mean by keeping a practice diary? Well, I mean writing down what you're working on, what you are working towards, and what isn't working. Okay, so for example, if I can play my blues scale using triplets at 60 BPM, then I will write down that that is the speed that I can currently comfortably do that. And my goal might be to increase it to 100 BPM over the next 6 months. So I'm going to make notes of how fast I can do it each day. I'll also make notes of songs that I'm working on. So there are different stages to learning a song. There's transcribing it. There is learning how to play each individual part. There's learning how to play it as a whole. There's bringing it up to full speed. So keeping track of all those things is really, really helpful. And then finally, if you notice that you have specific issues with your playing, make a note of that. So for example, you might find that when you play a 6 overblow, it's always out of tune. It's always flat or it's always sharp. Make a note of that and work on it. That act of actually writing something down that isn't working for you will help your subconscious to cogitate on it. And that's a really, really important part of practice. Which brings me to tip number 5, which is take breaks. Okay, so in the example, I was taking breaks during my practice. So instead of just belligerently repeating something over and over and over with a metronome, I'm repeating it a few times and then I'm having a micro break. Now the reason that it's good to do that is that it gives your subconscious time to process. If you don't do that, then you just keep riding on the momentum that you've built up, which feels good, but won't get you to your practice goals as quickly as you could get there. So take micro breaks during your practice. And most importantly, take big breaks in between practices. So one of the most important parts of a good practice routine is sleep. This is why it's so essential to try and do little regular practice sessions rather than one big practice session once a week. So if you can practice 4 days a week, having that sleep in between each practice session helps you to internalize and organize everything that you've worked on with your subconscious, which is great. It means you don't need to even work at it. So it's practicing while you're sleeping. Absolutely brilliant, and it's the most important thing. Okay, now I said that I'd only give you 5 tips, but I've got an important overall 6th tip, which is pay attention. Okay, and this is applicable to all of your practice. If you aren't focused and present in the moment while you're practicing, then you're just repeating things over and over, and it's going to take a hell of a long time to get anywhere. So if you practice with your mouth, then you're going to need 4 or 5 hours of practice. But if you practice with your mind, if you're focused, if you're present, then you will need an hour rather than 4 hours. It's huge. So if you notice that your attention is waning, don't be upset by it. That's totally normal. We all get tired and lose concentration. And if you still want to play harmonica, then switch from practice to playtime. And that's where you're not trying to make yourself better. You're just sitting there and having fun with it. And that's a really important thing to do. That's, it's not just about pushing yourself to get better. You want to practice and then you want to play and make the distinction between the two. Okay, so those are your 6 practice tips for harmonica playing. What I've done, I've actually put together a checklist with some resources, including good metronomes you can use, recording software, practice sheets for you to write your practice in. So if you want to get that, just click on the link in the description below. It will make all of this much easier. But before you run away, if you've enjoyed this lesson, please give me a thumbs up by hitting the like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, then hit subscribe, hit the little bell icon next to it so you get notified when I upload a new harmonica lesson every single week. All right, thank you very much and happy harping.